J.P. Morgan was a titan of his era who wielded unparalleled wealth and influence. His decisions could make or break the U.S. economy as he owned the first billion-dollar company and controlled the most profitable enterprises. That's why he is still revered by many and criticized by some, but the fact is Morgan's legacy is undeniable. But before we get started, welcome to Tales of Titans, the place where business and history come to life. So, let's look into the story of J.P. Morgan and how he shaped American finance. John Pierpont Morgan was born in 1837 in Connecticut into a wealthy family. His dad, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a successful banker and made sure John got the best education, hoping he'd become a financier too. Despite growing up with money, John had a tough childhood because he was often sick. He had severe coughing fits, migraines, seizures, and caught diseases like scarlet fever, which kept him from playing outside. Instead, he spent a lot of time indoors, reading and studying, especially about finance. At one point, John got really sick with rheumatic fever, so his dad sent him to the Azores Islands, thinking the climate and sea air would help him get better. John lived there alone for almost a year. When he recovered, he continued his education in Boston, Switzerland, and Germany. By the time he was 19 in 1857, he was ready to start working. Thanks to his dad, he got a job on Wall Street at a bank that worked with his father's firm in London. John's job included reporting on the financial and political situation in America to his father's firm. After J.P. Morgan joined his father's banking business, he quickly made a name for himself with his sharp mind and understanding of finance. Eventually, he took over his dad's business and grew it even bigger. One of his major accomplishments was helping to build railroads across America. These railroads connected cities and states, making it easier for people to travel and move goods around. However, the railroad industry was chaotic because lots of rich and powerful people were fighting for control. J.P. Morgan didn't like the instability and decided to do something about it. He managed to get all the competing railroad bosses to agree not to step on each other's toes in what became known as the Corsair Pact. This move brought some much-needed order to the industry, and Morgan was handsomely rewarded for his efforts, making a ton of money from his investments in railroads. With his increased wealth, one of the first things he did was buy a bigger yacht named the Corsair II after the agreement he brokered. This yacht was the epitome of luxury, with all the bells and whistles you could imagine, but it was expensive to keep up, costing about $100,000 a year. While J.P. Morgan was enjoying his lavish lifestyle, the country was going through a tough time with the gold panic of 1893. Back then, the U.S. dollar was linked to gold, allowing people to exchange their paper money for actual gold. However, when European investors began turning their U.S. dollars into gold, it led to a gold shortage and widespread panic. This made people doubt the worth of paper money, fearing the government might run out of gold. This situation caused banks and businesses to fail, leaving millions without jobs. The railway sector, heavily invested in by Morgan, was hit hard too. In just 1 year, 192 railway companies went bankrupt, and eventually a third of the U.S. train tracks were abandoned. This period was known as the Great Depression, a term that would be used again in 1929. During this crisis, J.P. Morgan showcased his talent in financial strategy. He believed that merging railroad companies was the key to their survival. However, he insisted on having complete control before offering his help, and this move made people wary of his enormous influence on American industry. Morgan took over struggling railroads, improved their finances by refinancing debts, and introduced new ways to raise money. Gradually, Morgan helped stabilize the railroad industry. His firm, Drexel Morgan & Company, came out strong, securing future business with major rail lines. This 20-month effort not only benefited Morgan financially, but also boosted his reputation. Morgan's skills eventually caught the attention of the U.S. government. The Treasury was in trouble, with gold reserves dwindling, endangering the economy. This was when Morgan proposed a plan to President Grover Cleveland to replenish the gold reserves, but the president initially declined, preferring to sell bonds to Americans instead. Knowing this traditional method was too slow and the government was close to defaulting on its debts, Morgan went to Washington to meet the president personally. After some resistance, he managed to discuss the matter with President Cleveland and his cabinet. Morgan warned them of the immediate risk of bankruptcy and suggested forming a group of U.S. and European investors to restore the government's gold reserves. Understanding how serious things were, President Cleveland felt he had no choice but to team up with Morgan's group. In an unexpected twist, they managed to sell government gold bonds privately super fast, just 22 minutes in New York and 2 hours in London. This move stopped a disaster in its tracks. J.P. Morgan played the hero, saving the U.S. government from a major crisis and bringing back trust in America's economy. But even though Morgan's move was a game changer for the economy, people started to question his real reasons. He made a lot of money from the deal, which made some wonder if he was more interested in his own pocket than in his country. It raised a big question. Should one person have so much control over the nation's finances? As Morgan became more powerful, not everyone was happy about it. In 1901, he made waves by buying Carnegie Steel from Andrew Carnegie for a whopping $480 million. This purchase led to the creation of the United States Steel Corporation, which controlled a huge chunk, 60 to 70% of the steel production in the country. It was a big deal, becoming the first company in the world valued at $1.4 billion, which was a massive part of the U.S. GDP at that time. Morgan didn't stop at steel. He also got his hands on major railroads, owning a third of all rail lines in the U.S. Considering how important railroads were, making up 60% of the stock market's value, some joked Morgan owned the whole country. But not everyone was a fan, especially President Theodore Roosevelt. He didn't like monopolies and believed in regulating big businesses. He and Morgan didn't see eye to eye, leading to some serious clashes. Roosevelt used the Sherman Antitrust Act to take on Morgan's empire, aiming to break up monopolies he thought were bad for the economy. Roosevelt went public with an investigation into Morgan's Northern securities without even talking to his advisors first. Morgan tried to fight back, but in 1907, the Supreme Court sided with Roosevelt, and Morgan's big company was split up. Morgan wasn't happy about the government getting involved in business, and then, in 1907, things got even worse when the stock market crashed, leading to panic and fear of a total financial meltdown as people rushed to banks to pull out their money. This was a really tough time as everyone was feeling unsure and scared. That's why J.P. Morgan was called in to help. At that time, there was a big financial mess and people were freaking out, pulling their money out of banks. Meanwhile, President Roosevelt knew he needed the best, so he reached out to J.P. Morgan, the guy everyone thought could fix this huge problem. The government decided to back Morgan up with $25 million to get things sorted. And guess what? John D. Rockefeller said he'd give half of his fortune to Morgan to help him stop the country from sinking into a depression. Morgan, being the clever guy he was, got all the big bank bosses together in his private library. He told them his plan to save the smaller banks by having the bigger ones support them, and it worked. They all agreed to a plan, and they managed to save the failing banks, stopping another crisis. J.P. Morgan was hailed as a hero again. But being that powerful and influential doesn't come easy. In 1912, people started questioning how much power Morgan actually had. The Senate set up the Pujo Committee to dig into this, investigating how Morgan and a few other bankers were controlling the country's money. Although they didn't find Morgan did anything illegal, they were shocked by how much control he had, over $22 billion, which was a huge part of the country's economy. This investigation led to big changes, like the creation of the Federal Reserve System and the starting of income taxes. Despite all his success, Morgan's life wasn't all smooth sailing. He often felt anxious and had health issues because of it. He was sensitive to how the media talked about him and really wanted to be remembered as a good, patriotic financier. On March 31st, 1913, Morgan died in Rome. Even though he was incredibly wealthy, he wasn't as rich as some people thought. But there is no denying that his legacy shall continue. Well, that's all, folks. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more amazing content, and, as always, I'll see you in the next one.